We begin our quest here with Emory Hunt and Ryan Wilson, set to break down some Friday night football in the NFL. Fellas, this was an exciting one, no doubt about it. It's hard to take your eyes off of what Justin Herbert personally accomplished in this game. 3 touchdowns, 318 passing yards, another 32 on the ground, and the one that salted it away. What did you make of his performance in this moment to start a season, coming off what was his worst performance in the NFL to end last season?
This was the best game I've seen Justin Herbert play as an NFL player because he was aggressive, he was confident, and he did it well on both ends of offense. We saw him do a fantastic job in being aggressive in the passing game, working intermediate to deeper down the field. Wasn't just checkdowns. He was working intermediate to deep, and then we saw him utilize his legs, not just of the garden variety of just scrambling and get yards, but we saw him lower his shoulder. We saw him keep his balance. We saw him go decisively when the game was on the line to get the first down to end the ball game. So this was the best game. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes. Best game in Justin Herbert's career, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. And here's the thing. This ain't your granddad's Chargers. We like to talk a lot about the Chargers chargering, and I was making notes late in the second quarter, just before halftime, when Marion Hampton ran out of bounds. Why? We still don't know. That led to 3 points right before the half for the Chiefs. They come out, the Chargers do, 3 and out. The next thing we see is Trier Tart slapping Travis Kelce in the face. The very next play after that, 6 points. But you know what? Jim Harbaugh doesn't know anything about charging. He does not care. We saw Harrison Butker miss an extra point, which he only did twice last year, and that seemed to turn the tide of momentum, and then Justin Herbert did the rest. The other thing is, I hope someone knows where Greg Roman is, because he got locked up, because all they did was throw the ball, and that is not Greg Roman's game plan as an offensive coordinator, and he put it in his franchise quarterback's hands, and we saw the results. This feels different. Do we like to overreact in week one? Absolutely. Am I guilty of doing that right now? 100%. I'm happy to do it because Justin Herbert played the way that he did. And that team, for the first time in as long as I can remember, did not look scared in the face of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid down the stretch. They took some punches. They stayed. They kept their feet. And at the end of the day, we saw that play that Justin Herbert made to win it with his legs. He looked like Jalen Hurts out there, and that's a good thing when you're the Los Angeles Chargers.
Ryan's dead on because the Chargers had an answer for every Chiefs surge. So anytime the Chiefs looked like they were coming back, Chargers had an answer. And this was all on Herbert's arm because the run game was just, it was marginal at best. And so they needed Herbert to win this ball game because it was a heavy pass script, to speak on what Ryan talked about. So Herbert really went out there and did the thing. So kudos to him, tipping my cap to him. And he really went out there on his own and with those receivers and beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the open.
We know statistically Justin Herbert continues to live in rarefied air in terms of how he started his career. I've got the Chargers down for 34 attempts off the hand of Herbert. I got them down for 25 rushes, 7 of those being Justin Herbert rushes, which the lion's share were likely designed pass. So to Ryan's point, pass-heavy script here to start and maybe catching the Chiefs a little bit off guard in that regard. And I'm not here to say that 32 guys could do what Justin Herbert did tonight, but the Chiefs didn't make it too hard on him. There were gaping holes in those zone defenses, couldn't create pressure with the 4-man rush. What troubled you most about the defensive effort from the Chiefs?
Both of those things. Everything outside of Drew Tranquil, because he was playing outside of his mind right now. I love what he was doing out there. But when you think about them not being able to get pressure without blitzing, that showed up big because Herbert had all day back there to hit those intermediate and deep routes down the field. And then the secondary, just lack of communication and lack of coverage, just unaware of where you are on the field, unaware of the situation. We saw the touchdown pass where Quentin Johnson was open in the back of the end zone where he just ran past the defensive backs that was so focused on a short route by McConkey, forgetting where they were on the field. You have to communicate that, pass that off, realize where you are, and that's where Herbert really took advantage. So they couldn't get pressure, especially on the edge. And when they blitzed, they got home, but you can't always rely on the blitz. And to be completely honest, they had more penalties than the Chargers did. So that in and of itself is going to beat you. In the pregame, Joe, I spoke about, the Chiefs don't beat themselves. That's the one thing they don't do. Today, they beat themselves in that regard with the penalties.
Yeah, the thing we'll learn is that Steve Spagnuolo will make the necessary adjustments. This obviously isn't the end of the world for the Chiefs, but it was glaring and telling to see it unfold in real time. Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, your guy Keenan Allen, Musso, all they did was run over routes, and they would clear out the zone on the cornerback on the far side, and there was miles of space, and all Justin Herbert had to do was wait for one of those three guys to run open. throw a ball out there to the intermediate level, and they would run under it and do the rest. And I think we know who Ladd McConkey is. We know who Keenan Allen is historically. This was a coming-out party of sorts for Quentin Johnston as well, because he has not yet quite lived up to the first-round hype. This was the first time it felt like he looked like TCU Quentin Johnston. He even dropped that ball in the end zone, came back, had another touchdown. So that's a positive development. The running game will get going. We know Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh will make sure that's the case. Najee Harris looked fine in a couple carries. Omari Hampton will learn from this mistake at the end of the first half there. Look, I don't want to overreact, but this is pretty exciting. And this feels like a team that you have to take seriously, not only because you're playing in the same division as the Chiefs, but we know the Broncos are going to be bringing it in as well.
I'm not going to call you off of any overreactions, but you went to Quentin Johnston there, so you're towing the line, Ryan Wilson. That was a fantastic performance. I want to see it a couple more times, but Justin Herbert maximizing what he has in that pass game. Ryan, I'm coming back to you here. Let's go on the Chiefs here for a moment offensively, because we saw all sorts of Mahomes magic once again, did everything he could to keep his team in this chase, but it wasn't enough. So I go back to how this game started. How did the omission of Xavier Worthy affect the play calling throughout this game in your eyes for Andy Reid?
Yeah, and I'm shaking my head because they were already down some guys at the skill position, and you just hate to see on the third offensive play you run a simple mesh route, and Travis Kelce takes out your best, most explosive downfield threat. Here's the play here. I mean, they've run this play probably a million times. It has never ended like this, and it can't end like this. So whoever the blame is to be on, you got to fix it. So he leaves after the third play. We see Hollywood Brown struggle with some drops early on, and then Patrick Mahomes is like, you know what? I'll do what I always do. And Emory touched on this earlier. We saw some of the penalties. Justin Simmons, the left tackle, who's going to be special, had a couple of penalties. We saw right tackle Juwan Taylor have enough penalties where Travis Kelce had to headbutt him and say, hey, man, you're in Brazil. We're playing a football game right now. How about you wake up? That said, we saw the fourth down play where Khalil Mack shoved Patrick Mahomes into the stands, and he throws a bomb to Hollywood Brown to make things interesting late in the fourth. Before that, though, we've already forgotten about the parallel to the ground throw that Patrick Mahomes made to get the first down to Juju Smith-Schuster through 3 Chargers defenders. So he's in peak performance, midseason form. Patrick Mahomes is. Everybody else on both sides of the ball just needs to catch up.
What worries me the most, based off this one game, I know it's only one game, but it could be a potential problem, and you got to nip it in the bud right away. The run game for Kansas City has to show up. They really cannot run the football, and I think that's going to be an issue for them moving forward. If they're not without their explosive weapons, you got to have someone that you can lean on in those moments.
Mahomes led them in rushing by more than double the next closest. To your point here, if you can't establish to run, you're playing in a chase script. This is what it's going to look like.
Especially if you don't have the explosive element to really back up that coverage and back up the defense to where you can run the football. If you don't have the Hollywood Brown you can depend on, or the Xavier Worthy, and you want to lean on Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt. I love Kareem Hunt's vision and footwork, but they love Isaiah Pacheco's burst and explosiveness. So they got to find a way to get that going, because we can't have Patrick Mahomes with 57 yards rushing the game, ending up with 1,000 yards on the season as a quarterback. That can't happen for Kansas City.
We say it every offseason about teams that continue to find a way in one-score games, that it's going to catch up with them eventually. This is a one-score game by definition. The Chiefs fall for the first time in 17 consecutive one-score games that they had found wins in. It was an NFL record. It comes to a stop here. Also marks the 6th divisional loss, only the 6th divisional loss in Patrick Mahomes' career. So maybe a tide is turning. We will not overreact, but this is massive confidence gained here for a Chargers team, Ryan, that has a 14-hour flight back to L.A. What do they carry with them coming out of this win from a confidence standpoint?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Joe, because I was thinking about that in the third quarter when the game was still in the balance, and how typically, and that you just read the stats, the Chargers are accustomed to not necessarily 14-hour flights, but 3 to 6 hour flights, flying home after losing a tough game on the road. Again, Jim Harbaugh knows nothing of this, and he is not interested in the past. He is interested in what this team is going forward, and it feels different. I think that plane ride is going to be eminently different than the previous plane rides that Justin Herbert's experienced in a pre-Jim Harbaugh era. And I'm also curious what the other plane ride looks like, because there's going to be not a lot, but there'll be some soul searching, trying to figure out the things that went wrong. And Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo will fix it. And I have very little concern that they won't. But I have a ton of confidence in what we saw from Justin Herbert. My only sort of thought right now is, let Justin Herbert be Justin Herbert. Let's not rein him in if this is working, because it was working from start to finish. And I think you have to ride your franchise quarterback as far as he will take you. And by that, I mean you don't need to turtle up and turn to the run game when you have Justin Herbert standing back there. It's not, no disrespect, it ain't Taylor Heineke back there or Easton Stick. It's Justin Herbert. And it ain't Rashawn Slater on the left side, and you don't have a battery of backs behind you. A rookie in Omari and Hampton leading the way. Najee Harris, I will say, your guy, Ryan Wilson, I believe one tote for 5 yards, if I'm not mistaken, in this matchup. So the run game is where they do need to develop to complement what Justin Herbert did here. But to his point, Jim Harbaugh now 6-0 in openers in his NFL head coaching career. You know he has a way of multiplying confidence. What does he do with this moving forward?
Well, you look at what he did for Justin Herbert. I mean, this is the most confident we've seen Justin Herbert. We brought this up in the pregame, how he did it with Josh Johnson. He's done it with Alex Smith. He did it with Colin Kaepernick. He did it with Andrew Luck and all those Stanford quarterbacks. And so when you see him do this, this is next in line in his development. And now the team overcomes Kansas City. We see how this was for Baltimore when they beat Kansas City, and now they were ready to go when Josh Allen and the Bills beat Kansas City, and now they're ready to go. This is big for the Chargers because now they feel like, hey, we already knocked them down. We have what it takes to go win, the division. And if we win the division, we get that home playoff game, and hopefully we're in the number one seed. We get a bye. So they can now think big because something real has actually happened for them. And this is a talented team. We didn't see a lot of missed tackles in the open field, which we saw on Kansas City side. So they're disciplined, they're well coached, their assignment sound, and they executed flawlessly this afternoon or this evening.
If you're looking for an olive branch here, Kansas City, it's just your second week one loss since 2015. The only other 2023 against the Lions in the opener. That one ended in jackpot. So work to be done, but we know the pieces are in place there in Kansas City to do so. Ryan Wilson, Emory Hunt, appreciation as always. And don't forget, there's only one place to be when they hit zeros. That's with us right here on CBS Sports HQ. This Sunday, we're back at it. Our gang bringing you all the latest highlights and instant analysis you won't get anywhere else. Join us on CBS Sports HQ. Back for more exploration. Joe Musso alongside Emory Hunt. Ryan Wilson joining our conversation as well. Fellas, we've pulled at a number of the strings, but after we watched the highlight there, it was a better beginning for Travis Kelce to start this season relative to last. I know a lot was said about his physical readiness a year ago. He was a big part of this offensive game plan once again. There were swaths where we didn't see him, but effectiveness, how'd you like what you saw out of 87?
He looks leaner, he looks faster, he looks a little bit more fluid, he looks like Travis Kelce. And I like how they also was getting Noah Gray involved because that's going to be the heir apparent. And when you have two tight ends that you can utilize, it helps you out offensively. So you like to see Kelce look like Kelce. You wanted to see him do a little bit more. So you had the miscommunication where he stopped his route and dropped would have been a potential touchdown. Mm-hmm. That was huge in this ball game. Even on the play when you saw Hollywood Brown go deep down the field, that was a great play by Khalil Mack to keep the pressure. Because if Mahomes had time, that's a touchdown. That changes everything now. And so I like to see these guys look like themselves, and we started to see that from Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to continue to see is that we've seen this in recent years, discounting last season, 2 or 3 years prior to that. It felt like Travis Kelce was in bubble wrap till about late November around Thanksgiving, and then he took the cuffs off and went crazy all the way to the Super Bowl. I think we're going to see that version of Travis Kelce. Emory talked about him being a little bit lighter, and he and Patrick Mahomes were talking about that a few weeks ago, how his shirts fit a little better. I think that's going to help, and he looked a little more spry in the touchdown there. I like the spirit with which he's playing, even if he's not contributing like he did 8-9 years ago. Getting in Juwan Taylor's face, making sure everyone's where they need to be, doing the little things, drawing the penalty from Tier Tart. All those things add up that don't necessarily show up on the box score. So I am unconcerned. Of all the things to be worried about, Travis Kelce is pretty low on the list for me.
And we should have two franchises that are unconcerned about their quarterbacks coming out of this one. Fantastic play, obviously, from Herbert. Nearly matched by Patrick Mahomes and some of the magic he invoked in this matchup. But I want to go on Herbert here a little bit more, Ryan, because 318, 32 on the ground, 3 and none. It's the stuff we've come to expect of Justin Herbert. And I'm not here to pose a playoff question in week one, but what does Justin Herbert need to do over the next 17 weeks to ensure that we see a different Justin Herbert when the playoffs do roll around?
Yeah, the only thing that we could say Justin Herbert has not done is play with consistency, because we've seen flashes like this before, not from start to finish, as Emory noted in the previous segment. This is the best game Justin Herbert's played since Oregon, and probably not even his last year at Oregon, which at times didn't look anything like what we thought a first-rounder should. But the other thing that you keep coming back to when you talk about the draft, when someone's 6'6", 220, and can throw a ball 200 miles an hour and then run like that, that's why you take him in the top 5, top 6, and that adds up. It's just a matter of, can you get that consistently? And the other thing that's sort of plagued Justin Herbert, and probably to a little extent Trevor Lawrence, probably a little more for Trevor, are the injuries. And one of the things I think that is incredibly instructive for every quarterback, no matter the level, is do what Jalen Hurts does when he runs the ball. And by that I mean he does not take hits. He's one of the thickest quarterback in the NFL. He takes fewer hits than anyone. I would like to see Patrick Mahomes not take hits. Shout out to Dante Jackson for getting lit up today. He's going to have to live with that, but I prefer my quarterback not do that. And we saw Justin Herbert take a few hits, but I loved what he did in that very last play. Once he was past the marker, he got down, game over. No need to take needless hits, because that's how you get hurt, and that's how you cannot help your team if you're on the bench nursing whatever injuries have plagued Justin Herbert in the past.
Where he has to improve, and we saw a little bit of that tonight, and this has been an ongoing issue for him throughout the course of his career, is feeling pressure better in terms of the blitz. And we saw him not feel a backside pressure. You kind of have to feel that, get out of dodge, or maybe spin out quick enough and then make a play, but don't eat the sack. It would give off the appearance of him holding the ball too long and just being oblivious to what's behind him. And once he gets past that, then he can continue to play more like he has. Mm-hmm. And when we saw him, what was cool about what we saw him do on that last play was we saw an undisciplined play by Chris Jones diving inside, slicing inside, letting the outside be free. Herbert didn't sit in the pocket and let a dead play die. He just got out of dodge, got the first down. So if he could be a little bit more assertive like that all throughout the season, he is going to carry over into the playoffs.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting, too, that you have a right tackle playing left tackle with Rashawn Slater's season-ending injury. You move Joe Alt over there. The trust he still has with that man defending his blind side. But I get what you're saying here, feeling pressure when that extra guy's coming. We did see it catch him once with Drew Tranquill, on a free runner. A final thought here on the Kansas City Chiefs before we close the book on this night. Performance is one thing, guys. Personnel is another. Where's your concern level with the personnel group on the defensive side of the ball for Kansas City?
They look like they lack speed. They look slow out there against this Charger football team. Granted, it's the first game. We understand it's in a different element. I don't know the elevation down there in Brazil, but it just looks slow. Mm-hmm. And it needs someone consistently to apply pressure on the inside. You have what you like in Karlaftis. You have Chris Jones. Find another piece. And then the second level has to be better. We saw Tranquill have a fantastic game, but then we saw the other backer kind of miss a lot of tackles too. So, or come in high and that ends up slipping tackles or whatnot. So they just look out of sorts on defense. I trust that they'll get that together. That's the biggest issue I have for them. Biggest takeaway for tonight.
2,500 feet, guys. That's the elevation of São Paulo. So no excuses that you're out of breath. That's like living in Tucson. You can manage that. The other issue are the ones that Emory talked about. George Karlaftis was playing every bit like the first rounder who just got paid because he's worth it. We know who Chris Jones is. But you can account for Chris Jones with two guys, and then someone else has to win consistently. And I think one of the things that the Chiefs are missing now, and this can certainly change, is that they've been so good in recent years at just crushing the draft, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Some guys just show up and play right away and have a lot of success. Brian Cook, Trent McDuffie. We've seen these guys come in. Even Jalen Watson, who got injured tonight, and that made the secondary even a little thinner. He came in as a seventh-round pick and was playing right away. They need to find those guys sooner than later because of the injury concerns, especially on the opposite side of the ball when we talk about the wide receiver position. So we know about the injuries there. We'll have to see what Xavier Worthy's future looks like in the near term. When they get Rashid Rice back now in 5 games. So there's a lot of just let's try to hold this thing together with chicken wire and duct tape. And that means Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And then once we get everyone back near the midpoint of the season, hopefully we have a record where we can just continue to do what we usually do. So they need some help from young guys, and they need some guys to step up outside of George Karlaftis and Chris Jones on defense.
I think you might have got the wrong bird there because it isn't chicken wire coming for him. It's Eagles are the issue coming up here for Kansas City. Their next matchup, Ryan Wilson and Emory Hunt. It's always a pleasure, fellas. A look here at some Justin Herbert exploits. What a night it was here. 300 plus. Most 300-yard passing games in your first 6 seasons all time. Justin Herbert continuing to climb this list, and he's got plenty of runway here in the season to come.